Bhodi here for the Italian Buddhist. You can find me at www.italianbuddhist.com, as if you didn't know. Or youtube.com/Italian Buddhist. That's the channel. My friend Amy asked me to have a continuation of The Worth of Our Words. The Worth of Our Words was a video that I did talking about the Noble Eightfold Path, which is right speech. And it was called The Worth of Our Words, and what I was talking about, it said, the saying is, the worth of our words is measured by how much they improve the silence. And what she was talking about, what she mentioned is after seeing the video, she thought a lot about it, and she really appreciated it, and it resonated with her very much. But she said, what about ourselves? The words that we say to ourselves, we talk about quite a bit about watching our words with others. Like I can ask myself all the time before I speak, is what I'm about to say good? Is it helpful? Is it kind? Is it loving? And if I say no to that, if I say that while I'm speaking out of anger, or I could get to the root of something easily just by pausing, just even for a few seconds, really, I can look at that and get to the root of any action that I do. But specifically when I'm talking and things, instead of anticipating what a person's going to say next, listening, and then I can respond accordingly, at least in a kind or understanding way. But how often do I speak compassionately to myself? How often do we speak compassionately to ourselves? How often are our words kind and nurturing and supportive? Because all too often that is not the case. All too often, if we treated people half as poorly as we treated ourselves, they would throw us in jail. Very simply. And from an early age, we learn that we should suffer. Suffering is okay. Suffering is okay, almost as if we deserve it. Give to your fellow man. Give to your fellow man. Don't even think of yourself. Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. And people say, well, that's got to be selfish. No, it isn't selfish. No, it isn't. If I have the understanding, the true understanding of why it's good to put myself first as far as compassion and understanding, and not look at it as a selfish view, but realizing that I deserve that, that I'm an individual that I can be compassionate to. If I have balance in my view, and not a selfish view, but a balance and a compassionate eye. If I looked at myself, think about this, if you looked at yourself as a child, what would you do to that child that was walking around? I mean, you'd hold that child. You would be playful with that child. You'd be kind with that child. Well, why do you have to do that to all children, but not yourself? I mean, if I could look at myself that way, it's easier to talk to myself kinder. It's easier to realize that my words often are just words. That's it. I tell myself, oh my God, why didn't you do this? Or why should, I should or shouldn't. I call it shoulding on yourself, or should or shouldn't. If I only would have been a better father, if I only would have been a better friend, why didn't you do this? Why? Looking back in retrospect, so then there's guilt and shame. We feel guilt about things that we've done. We feel shame about who we are. And often we cannot shirk that. Often we can't throw off the cloak of guilt and shame. And our words are the things that do it the most. Not our actions or anything like that, our words, because it's a constant merry-go-round and roulette wheel that goes on in our brain and tells us all the time things that aren't even true. Perceptions of others and myself, but specifically we're talking about words to ourselves and what our brain says all the time. That's why meditation is so important. That's why being silent with ourselves. You don't even have to call it meditation. You can call it just pausing. You could call it taking a break from your mind. How do you do that? Many of us focus our attention on simple things like our breathing, or a bell, or a candle, or the image of God, whatever you perceive, be it Jesus Christ, the Buddha, Muhammad, I don't care, a light, but just taking some quiet time and pausing and being at peace. That stops our brain and often gives us clarity to realize that we are not bad people. Sometimes we do negative actions and so forth. I'm not a dualist. I don't believe that there is this heaven and this hell that we go to. We can suffer because our reward is going to come. What? Build our reward here. Build our reward inside the kingdom that is in us. And if the kingdom, if the divine, if that spirit, if that spark, I don't care how calloused your heart can be, or all the curtains that you've drawn over to convince yourself that you're not a good person. I don't care. There's a spark in there that could be fanned, and that we can condition our hearts, kind of like push-ups for our hearts, to be open and receptive to all beings. And firstly, we do that for ourselves, even in prayer or meditation, whatever you want to call that. Being kind to ourselves, gushing over ourselves. I said to my friend, you look on Facebook or some type of social media or online, and you see a photo of a little baby or a dog or a puppy, or someone like a beautiful little bird or a kitten, and we gush over it. Oh my goodness, oh my gosh. And I say, when was the last time you gushed over yourself? When was the last time you felt you deserved to be gushed over? Especially by yourself. It's easier, I find so often, I did it my whole life, and I've spoken to so many people that have talked about that it's easier, way easier to give. It's so much easier to give gifts, to listen to other people and things like that, than to respect themselves and to give themselves. I don't know why that is. I mean, I have ideas, I think you do too. Growing up and regardless of if you had some faith that you grew up with or no faith whatsoever, we're told in society through media, through television, through radio, through everything, even music in many ways, how nasty we are sometimes. I've seen a television show, for instance, and there's nothing wrong with the television show that I'm about to bring up. There are so many brilliantly talented people, but the show judges people on their talents or on their singing ability. And one of the judges, more often than not, is very humiliates. Literally, I've seen them humiliate a contestant, rip them apart. And people love it. People tune in for it. They look forward to it. It sells, apparently. Well, I'm not that negative to think that changes society, but I do believe a lot of people feel that that's okay to do that, and they do it to themselves. It's okay. It's an accepted part of our society. No, it's not. It's not okay to humiliate other people, and it's not okay to humiliate ourselves. The worth of our words are measured by how much they improve the silence. The silence in our mind, the silence in our heart, that still point, that candle that is inside of that glass of water that is just still, that is in us, that still point. And that still point is beautiful, and that still point is divine. That never changes. We're like rays of the sun, and the sun is there, and no matter how much one of those rays flickers or goes dark, the sun doesn't stop shining. The love that's in us doesn't stop. Hate is the absence of love. Love is not the absence of hate. Love is not the absence of hate. Love is the equation. It's always there. It's always there for us in our consciousness and in our spirit. So if that's the case, and we all have that, then it's a lot easier to love ourselves, isn't it? to speak to ourselves in a kind fashion, in a loving way. As a friend. Treat yourself as a friend. Treat yourself as a beloved family member. Treat yourself as one of the, if you had an unbelievable dog growing up that you loved more than anything, and you held and took places and everything was fantastic, and my friend just lost his dog, his greatest companion. He was so sad, and I cried with him, and things like that. Think of that love towards yourself, or the love that you have towards your grandparents or your child, or anything like that. You deserve that. We all have it inside, and if you're capable of loving other people, you're capable of loving yourself as well. I'm Bhodi for the Italian Buddhist, and I hope that this was a nice continuation of the Worth of Our Words, Part 2. If you have any questions, anything like that, you can go to facebook.com/Italian Buddhist or ItalianBuddhist.com. You could write to me at Bhodi@ItalianBuddhist.com as well, and I'll answer. I bow to the divine in you.